Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. The speech that I'm going to discuss today is basically the situation of what's happening in North Korea and how the people of North Korea are being treated. This has been something that's been going on for quite a long time. Most recently, it has escalated and things have picked up with Kim Jong Un, the current supreme leader of North Korea, when he came into office after the passing of his father. Basically, I just want to persuade everyone to take a better look at the things that are happening in North Korea, the atrocities that are being committed there. The people in North Korea, they're not being treated right, being imprisoned for simple things, murdered, people are disappearing, things like that. So I think it's a very grave and desperate situation in North Korea right now. They're a very isolated country. They really don't have any contact with the outside world at all, unless it's something relevant that they need to do trade with or something like that. But they pretty much keep to themselves and have no outside contact. They're very isolated. So basically, just want to pretty much inform everyone that those people there are desperate and they need help, and we need to figure out a way to get them help somehow. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not in that high level, within the government. I don't have that kind of authority to where I can just go over and help the people, like I want to. But that's definitely something that I hope I can persuade you to, take a better look at today. So, to begin, North Korea is a very poor country. In fact, they are the second poorest country in the entire world, um, only second to, I believe, Haiti. So they're very, very poor, compared to their counterpart of South Korea, which is, I believe, the fifth or sixth richest country in the world per family income. So, quite a drastic difference here between North Korea being so poor and South Korea thriving. And of course, you can contribute a lot of that to massive companies like Samsung and things like that that are based in South Korea. But yeah, there's a big difference there. So North Korea and the United States is disputes are no secret to anyone. It's in the news almost every day. Just over the past 25 years, I believe North Korea has declared war on someone, or the United States in particular, at least a couple of hundred times. Of course, nothing ever escalates out of it, nothing comes of it, but they're very short tempered over there and quick to put the blame on other countries for things that they feel they're being threatened against. And so, that just continues the escalation. That also makes it very difficult for even like our current president, President Trump, to try to have any type of relations with that country, when they simply just want to point the finger and blame everything on everybody else, and not really want to come to negotiations. So that does make it very difficult. When it comes to all these talks of, nuclear war and, North Korea continuing their nuclear program, defying the United States and the United Nations by continuing to do that. And we've seen other countries do the same thing. So I don't think personally that North Korea is going to stop working on their nuclear program. They want to keep that as their stronghold in case anyone ever tries to invade them. For example, China to the north, Russia, the United States. So I don't think North Korea is going to really halt that program too much. But along with all this financing that's coming into working on their nuclear weapons program, people are starving. And people are dying every day over there. Yet while the supreme leader Kim Jong Un continues to obviously eat healthy and well, and is contributing to himself and his top echelon, but the people under him who he should be concerned with first and foremost, um, are just starving and are being imprisoned, and it's not right. It's a very cruel regime over there. I'm not exactly sure what we really can do at this point, without the leader and the regime there, overreacting and possibly launching a nuclear missile at someone, or declaring war and actually acting on it. without, another country trying to actually help those people. So we got to have some minds, sit down at a table and figure something out, because we really can't continue to let Kim Jong Un, remain in office much longer than he already has. There's actually rumors that at the time of his father's death, he actually had a hit squad sent out to murder his older brother, to ensure that he remained the next in line to be the leader of that country. He also has another brother who has no interest in being in office, and a sister, I believe, that he has recently appointed into a position within the government. So yeah, the regime it's not a kind one. There's plenty of horror stories that come from there. As for example, recently we had an American by the name of Otto Warmbier. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was in the news that he had recently returned from North Korea. He was a college student that had been caught stealing some propaganda, and was sentenced to a harsh 15 years hard labor in North Korea. And though he didn't serve the full 15 years, the time that he was in prison there, he had allegedly received severe torture and abuse. And shortly after North Korea had agreed to return him to the United States, he did succumb to that torture and pass away. And so it's sad, and it's just another example of, the torture and the regime that is currently handling things over there, and the way that they deal with people. So it's a bad situation. So there are 25 million people that currently live in North Korea, and approximately 130,000 prisoners that are currently being held, which is very high considering the number of people that live in that country. Anyone that questions the regime is automatically thrown in prison, usually for very long sentences, very long time. Mr. Thomas Bergenthal, who is an attorney, actually visited North Korea recently, and he interviewed former prisoners and guards there in the country, and stated that there are several horrendous atrocities being committed against the citizens of North Korea and prisoners. He actually stated that, Mr. Bergenthal, that what's happening in North Korea is actually worse than what happened during the Nazi regime of World War II. And that is saying quite a bit, considering that we all know what happened to over 6 million people that were murdered during World War II. And so he is claiming that this is worse than that. Anybody that Kim Jong Un doesn't trust is murdered or thrown in prison. As I mentioned before. So it is a bad situation there. Also, upon Mr. Bergenthal's report, he had concluded that North Korea has in fact violated 10 out of the 11 world recognized war crimes against humanity. So 10 out of 11 world war crimes are being committed by that country. So it's absolutely it's an atrocity. It's terrible. So like as I mentioned before, we need to figure out what kind of sanctions we can put on the country to figure out what we can do, to get Kim Jong Un out of office, and just entirely put in a whole new government with a democracy for the people. And I really feel that that's what they want. They're just so terrified of their current leader, and so fearful of what their neighbors are going to say about them, or who's going to hear something or see something if they do try to stand up for themselves, that they remain silent. And that's terrible. So we also have many widespread human rights violations. There's been talks of China or the United States, getting involved, going in with war, but thankfully nothing's happened so far. I personally don't believe that war is the answer. Yes, I am a veteran, and war does happen, and I actually did serve in a war conflict, and but I really feel that should be the absolute last thing that we should do, especially in this day and age where the nuclear weapon threat is so prevalent. It isn't like times in the past, for World War II, for example, where we did need to go in and defeat, the axis of evil. But nuclear weapons weren't a threat so much back then as they are now. So that's something that we really have to watch out for. So to conclude here, what I wanted to basically, just reiterate is that, there are terrible things that are happening in North Korea. People are being, murdered. Other countless crimes are continuously happening against the people there, especially the women. It's very terrible. Um, who Kim Jong Un replaced his father, Kim Jong Il. Things weren't much better even under him, but they've gotten progressively worse. It really is a sad reality when an entire country is afraid to stand up for itself and do the right thing because of one man. It really is terrifying. That people can have such malice in their hearts and such content that they would simply just murder someone for looking at them wrong, or throw someone in prison for 30 years because they said that they don't agree with the way the country is being run. And these aren't exaggerations. These are true facts and statements that have been given, and things that really are happening in North Korea. So it's terrible. We've seen past dictators removed from office, usually by force. If that's what it's going to take this time, then maybe that's what we'll have to do. But I really do wish that we could pursue all avenues before war. Again, if that's what it absolutely has to come down to in order to get Kim Jong Un out of power and his whole group around him removed, so that we can get someone in there, a democracy in there that can really treat the people right, then that's what we'll have to do. So, I hope that all of you will agree with me. That this is a dire situation there. It has been for several years, and hopefully it will not continue to be for too much longer. People have hope. They're human beings. They deserve to be treated right. We all do, and no one deserves to be living in fear every day of their lives, or being beaten, or murdered, or imprisoned, because they said something wrong. So again, please, I hope you take a little better look into the situation that's happening there, and do your own research, and find out what conclusion you come to. So that does conclude everything. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I wish all of you well. Thank you.